Mike Winters.
And good morning. It is 17 minutes after 9 o'clock, and joining us, or 8 o'clock, I'm sorry, I was an hour ahead of myself. Joining us in studio, or excuse me, on the phone this morning is newly named Athletic Director for Eastern New Mexico University Portales, Dr. Paul Weir, or should I say, Coach, Doctor? Would you probably answered all of them, don't you?
That's a good point. Yes.
So I guess depending on the circle you're in, you're either coach or doctor. But
yeah, I've been coach for a while. I walked in here and everyone's calling me doctor, and I'm like, geez, I don't get called that very often. So I'll have to adjust a little bit.
Well, I'm sure you're kind of like, well, at least in the world of coaching, obviously you're a lightning rod at everything, especially when you're, at UNM level. So you're like, hey, you just call me coach or doctor. I'll call that a win either way.
Exactly. Yes. Yes. It beats some alternatives. That's for sure.
Absolutely. So let me ask, how is the transition from really coaching to being athletic director? How has that been for you?
I probably haven't had a ton of time to reflect on it yet because I've had a really busy summer, and I was coaching this past summer with the Canadian under-19 national team. So I kind of got back from that just a few weeks ago. I accepted this job. I came right here. I've been kind of working ever since. I'm driving back and forth to Albuquerque to help move my family. So I really haven't had a lot of time to kind of sit back and think much about where all this sits and put it in perspective. I've just been trying to get caught up and work as hard as I can to do the best job that I can. But I'm sure in time I'll have a little bit more, time on my hands to think a little bit about what this means and where it's going to go and how much I miss coaching or don't. And right now I'm excited about this opportunity, and I'm just going to dive into it for as hard and long as I can.
Sure. Well, and this is the obviously as a head coach of any organization, whether it's a football team, a basketball team, a high school, college, pros. It doesn't matter. The coach side, I mean, we always think of the X's and O's side, but every time you get to that head coach level, especially in a college program, it's almost as much time as you're spending coaching students, you're spending just as much time doing the logistics of a team, of running a team, the scheduling, all the fun, unsexy part of it. The AD side is kind of almost exclusively all of that, isn't it? Where it's, or do you get a chance to work with athletes and things at that coaching level still as an AD?
Yeah, I think there's obviously, to your point, probably some similarities across the board in just leadership and guiding an organization. The coaches have a lot more hands-on time with the kids than an administrator like myself would have. So you're right. The question will be, how much of that do I miss? But at the same time, having the opportunity to kind of work with coaches is impactful as well. There's a lot of really talented young coaches here that are starting their careers, and I'm looking forward to being able to, lend my experiences and my successes and failures to them and hopefully make them better and kind of help the kids in a different way now where I'm maybe helping the people that are helping them. So hopefully in a different way, I'll be able to kind of impact kids' lives.
Sure. I'm just because you obviously, for folks that don't know, you've coached at the highest levels in college. UNM, the head basketball. I mean, you've got extensive New Mexico coaching experience here. How is that? When you go into this new role as AD, are you? How are your expectations? Are you looking this as like moving on as next level in your career? Is now you want to be on the admin side, or is your goal to still get involved with coaching? I mean, because I imagine, and like you said, you're kind of learning right now whether how much you miss coaching or not. But I mean, is there a factor there? Like, are you thinking it's like, man, I know I want, AD, this is the right thing, but deep in my heart, I'd love to be sitting behind a bench somewhere.
Yeah, no, I think, look, you wouldn't be calling me, or we wouldn't be joking about people calling me, Dr. Weir if I wasn't always, thinking about other things, and I've taught classes at UNM as a faculty member. I've obviously kind of gone to school and gotten degrees, and I've been a little bit of a non-traditional profile as a coach, and I never knew where that was going to lead, because I was enjoying coaching and the experience and the opportunity. And I've lived in this state for quite a long time. I met my wife here. My kids have been born here. So when an opportunity like this became available, that was in the state, that could utilize, the combinations of skills and experiences I've had, I'm like, you know what, this seems like a really neat opportunity to explore. And then when I explored it and I got to meet all the people around it, and you kind of start to see how small this state is, and that a lot of people I knew here or knew from there, and my different stops along the way, and how it all kind of tied together, I thought, man, this could be a really neat experience. So that's really where my head's at now, and I'm going to dive into it. I have a lot of aspirations and ideas for what could make this place great, and that's where my focus is going to be.
Sure. Let me ask you this, kind of in that transition we're talking about here. Obviously, a college the level of UNM versus Eastern New Mexico University Portales. When we talk about sports programs, it's different classes, things like that. But as far as how the athletic programs run, are there a lot of similarities, or is it night and day difference between the NCAA, the 1As versus your 2As? I mean, is it similar but different, or is there vast differences?
I would say at its core, they're all the same. Really at its true core. When you're dealing with kids and you're dealing with sports and the competitive element, the academic component, just really what everybody's here for.
Yeah.
Now, the resources and the funding are obviously different, and the scope of things you're handling are a little bit different. So there are some differences for the athletes, for people that work here.
Mm-hmm.
But I would say, and I felt this way about Eastern for many years, driving through and being here for recruiting or whatever it might be. Like, there's a lot of potential at Eastern New Mexico that I think in different degrees and maybe in different sports and at different times, it's been able to kind of show flashes of success. But, if we're able to kind of centralize everything and get aligned as a department and a university and just overall as a community, I really think Eastern has some incredible potential to grow and develop itself into a fantastic institution and athletic department along with it.
Sure. I'm kind of curious, and this might get philosophical and everything, but because obviously too, the missions are a little bit different and what I mean by that is obviously every level of college, the mission's to get the students their degrees, and that's goal one. But obviously at the UNM level, there's some of those players do have aspirations of playing the sport beyond their days at college. Whereas at face it, at Eastern, that percentage of athlete is much smaller. Is that
sure?
So I always wondered if, because of reasons like that, obviously that's got to change the success level. Does the when you're sitting at UNM and everyone's looking at win-loss records, is that still the same mentality at Eastern or that level? I mean, obviously everyone wants to win, but is the pressure there the same?
It's a good question. I think to my point earlier, whether it's high school, to your point, whether it's high school, college, and pro, there's a lot of carryover.
Mm-hmm.
And I think anyone who's American and likes sports, they want their team to win. So I think, whether it's our current athletes, whether it's our current coaches, whether it's alumni, former athletes, local community members, I don't think they come to the games just wondering which way it's going to go. I mean, they come thinking, hey, I really hope this team wins tonight.
Sure.
So I think that's the beauty of sports, and I think all of our teams and coaches and players, I hope are going in with that competitive spirit and wanting to represent themselves and ourselves well. Now, does that mean that when you watch a contest at Eastern, you're watching the same as the University of Texas or Texas Tech or whomever it might be?
Sure.
Maybe not, but I don't know if that changes the fundamental core of why everyone's there and what everyone's trying to do in that contest.
I guess, because obviously, like you said earlier, the funding and the money and where it comes from at at a UNM level is going to be way different than at Eastern level. I didn't know if that comes with the added pressure, maybe, and that's kind of where you know what I'm saying.
Sure. For definitely so. Yes, I think when you're dealing with more money, there's a lot more eyes on it. There's a lot more introspection, and I think when you're dealing with a little bit less, you're right. The mission probably broadens a little bit more, and the expectations of people probably aren't quite the same.
Sure. Whereas I think, and the point, and we'll kind of move on here, but like when you look at statistics from Eastern New Mexico University and say, hey, yeah, our record as a basketball team is 20 and 37 or something. But look at our numbers. We have 5 students on the team that are our dean's list. We have, you know what I mean?
Sure.
You can look at that and tout that as that's program success. Where if you say that at UNM, they're like, yeah, but you only got so many wins. And I guess that's kind of that difference I'm trying to point out. Whereas at Eastern, I think you get more chance to focus on the student successes. Where when you get to that NC 1A level. The coaches, you want to focus on that, but you're answering to a little bit different person on there, I guess. Does that make sense? What I'm trying to?
It does. It does. Yes, and you're. I think you're exactly right.
Yeah, and so I think that and for you, I've got to imagine that lets you focus more on the fundamentals of your job rather than trying to please someone that's gonna basically be a donor. You know what I mean?
I think so. The student experience, I mean, I think anyone in athletics, you put the student experiences first, whether you're in high school, whether you're in college. I think that the experience of the students is something you want to put at the forefront. And with that, as you get higher, a lot of those resources are probably put into that experience being successful on the court, maybe a little bit more of an emphasis than off the court. Whereas here, with more limited resources, those ones, particularly at the outset, are going maybe more towards academics or a more holistic approach to the experience. And as you get higher and you get more funding, you end up putting a lot more of those dollars into increasing the competitiveness of your team.
Sure. Yeah, it's with success on the one side, the other will come, and I guess that's where you come in and say that's where I try to make that happen and create the we got the great people and we got great situation here. My job's to come in and let other people see that and try to enhance to it. And
sure,
yeah. So okay, well, let me ask you then. Looking now, that granted, you've only got a couple weeks on the job officially, I think here.
Yeah.
Obviously, you've sat down and thought about what's your goals for. I mean, obviously, you want to make the best program possible, but like in the short term, is there like things you want to kind of implement right away and put your stamp on?
Yeah, so really, like I've kind of talked to a lot of people through this interview process, and then since I've gotten here about what I believe our role is and what we're trying to do. I mean, the first thing that I want to make sure everyone understands, even in our department, is we want to make the university better, and the best way to do that is to do everything we can to help increase enrollment and help increase retention at the university. And if we can be a type of vehicle that's going to make the institution better in those ways by increasing enrollment and making it a place that people want to stay, then we're doing our job. It's not just singularly about our athletes. It's about what role athletics plays on campus. So those are two primary ones that I'm creating. And then along the way for athletics, like I've also told our staff, in this next 6 to 18 months, we've probably got the freedom to try 1 or 2 or 3 initiatives that are going to have to be successful. We don't have a lot of resources to miss on things. And what I want to do over the next however many months is listen and learn from as many people in and around this department and community as I can.
Sure.
And then take all of that, put it together and say, okay, we're going to try this and we're going to try this, and we're going to put all our eggs into these baskets. And if they're the right things and they've been vetted the right way and we've really gone through a comprehensive evaluation of them as strategies, We put them out there, and if they move the needle, then hopefully that can just kind of keep snowballing into more things, and we can grow this program and put it on a really, high upward trajectory. But I've been around the state long enough to know that when the newcomer comes in from the outside, the one thing people hate more than anything is the newcomer coming in and telling everyone how much better they know than you. And,
sure.
and I don't want to do that. So I'm here to hear what everybody else thinks and accumulate all of that together, sift through it, and then kind of hopefully be able to pick out one or two strategies that we'll put in place.
Sure.
And those have to be successful. So I've got to make sure that we put the right things forward and push it with our local community and our president, our board of regents, and state legislature, and whoever else might be involved, and say, hey, can we really get your support on these couple things? I really think they're going to help propel us forward, and then those have to be the right things.
Sure. One thing I would imagine an area that really helps you excel here that with your role as the athletic director, because, like you said, the experience you've had in New Mexico, obviously at UNM, being the head coach there, your coaching experience at NMSU too. Those, in essence, I mean, yes and no, they're competitors with you. And what I mean by that is that they've got scouts looking at those basketball and football games at high school level, just like you guys have scouts looking at basketball and football games. But you have a unique insight, is the ideology of UNM and what they're looking for, and obviously at NMSU coaching there, I'm sure you got some insight there on the types of things they're looking for. That's got to give you a bit of an edge for Eastern when, okay, I know how they're going to think. Here's how we can adapt to that. Is that pretty fair to say that's something that you kind of have experience with?
It is, and I would say, like, in getting here now, I got to New Mexico State about 15 years ago or so, maybe 14 or 15 years ago was when I first got to New Mexico State, and the size of Las Cruces and kind of where the athletic department was at that point, it's really not that far off from where this school is right now, and maybe where the local community is of Portales and Clovis as an overall community size.
Sure.
Now, Cruces had a lot of things kind of go its way, and so did New Mexico State that really took off the size of Las Cruces and even the size and scope of New Mexico State and its athletic department.
Sure.
But I do think kind of the many years ago at New Mexico State, there's a lot of similarities to this current situation here at Eastern, and hopefully there's some things we can steal from that to maybe help grow athletics here in the institution here and even the local communities. But, saying all that, New Mexico State and New Mexico offer their own individual experience. I think even when you can compare those two schools, they're two completely different experiences for a student or for someone that wanted to go to those institutions. And I think Eastern is its own experience as well. It's a really neat college town. Where it's in the Lone Star Conference. I said we're in the Lone Star Conference, which brings you into Texas quite a bit. We're in a different part of the state over here on the eastern border, and I think the student that comes here is getting a different experience than UNM and a different experience than New Mexico State. So I don't know if we're maybe we're obviously directly competing in one essence, to your point.
Sure.
But I also think as you kind of get into the detail of if you want the experience of Albuquerque and UNM and playing in that, competing in that environment, that's one experience. I think New Mexico State has its own, and then we obviously have our own as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. And, this is the part I love, and you're going to get a chance to see it here in just September here when the football team starts taking. We've had a chance to talk with Coach Hyde a few times, and sounds like a real great guy. But the part I love, and this is what I love about Eastern sports in general, is everyone knows Friday Night Light football in New Mexico it's not Texas level, but it's pretty stout. And across the state, you're seeing names of like a running back or a quarterback or a wideout that he's the star of these teams. And then you end up looking at the Eastern roster. And you're like, oh yeah, that kid used to light it up there in Hobbs, or that kid used to light it up in Clovis or whatever. And now you're seeing him at that next level. And I think Eastern's almost sometimes you can look at those rosters like, oh, it looks like a high school all-star roster from New Mexico, and so it's
for sure,
and it's kind of fun because you watch the Friday night games and you're like, man, I wish that kid was on my team, and now you're like, hey, here he is now playing for and I think. It's exciting because we, as fans of these kids, student athletes, watching them through their careers in high school, we almost get like another chapter in their lives to kind of enjoy that stuff too. So,
agreed. No, you're right. That is a neat part of this experience.
So definitely, hopefully some folks want to make a trip out there for a few games out to Portales there. Yeah, the stadium, what's it, about a year old now, I think? It's
just you, but it's terrific. I think it's a really neat experience. I'm really looking forward to, taking part in some games up here this fall and getting as many people out. So, yeah, we'd love for anyone to come out and check out the stadium and the institution, and obviously watch our football team as well.
You going to make the basketball coach a little nervous if you decide to drop in on practices to watch?
Not at all. Not at all. I've already been pretty clear to him that, hey, I am not here for anything like that. I'm here to help if he wants me, and if he doesn't want to see me, I won't be there.
Yeah, imagine that. Well, I mean, he's lucky because now he gets to pick your brain. But sure, at the same time, with your track record, your accomplishments, it's kind of like, well, man, he already knows what I'm dealing with here, But that's an asset too. I mean, because
exactly.
You get to go in there, and really, it's true with all. I mean, that's really. I think also the role of the AD is, you have a job to bring students in and make sure the programs are great, but also part of that is you're a mentor for these coaches and
yes.
These coaches that are working for you. They all have aspirations and goals and dreams too, and you're nurturing and trying to help those things happen for them too. So, if at some point these coaches get offers at higher level colleges or pros or something like that, you're setting the groundwork for them too. So, it's a mentorship all across the board, not just for the students sometimes. So.
Yep, I agree 100%. That's a very exciting and attractive part of this job for me personally. For sure.
Absolutely. Well, Coach, I don't want to keep you here, but is there anything we wanted to make sure we kind of talked about that we just kind of skipped over or didn't get a chance
Not
to
at all. Not at all. Our football opener is September 2nd, so if anybody wants to come out, we would love to have them. We're going to try. It's a Thursday night at 6 o'clock, and we're going to do everything we can to kick it off. I know everyone's been stuck at home for quite a while now, including our players and our athletes, so we're hopeful that we'll be able to get everybody out, make it a nice, fun event.
Absolutely.
For everybody, and we'd like to see people there.
If folks want to kind of stay up to date on what's going on with all of Eastern sports, just kind of check in and bookmark the Eastern New Mexico. If you just type in Eastern New Mexico University Portales Athletics, the website comes right up. And you can kind of stay along and follow, get updates as new things happen. Like you said, we got the first football game coming September 2nd here, but there might be some opportunities for y'all to watch a scrimmage or two in between there. If you follow the website or follow their Facebook, that's a great way to kind of stay up to date when those events happen. So if you're in Portales here and it's like, hey, we can go check out a scrimmage, they're letting us sit and watch some of this. Obviously, COVID's very stringent on what we can and cannot do, but those events might happen a little bit here, and so just stay up to date on that stuff, and we'll let folks know as it happens too. So,
well, thank you for that, and thank you so much for having me on.
Well, thank you, Coach, Doctor Coach.
There you go. There you go.
We appreciate the time and look forward to talk to you again soon.
Okay, you take care.
All right, thank you, sir. Appreciate it.
Bye-bye.
All right, bye-bye. All right, that was Dr. Paul Weir, athletic director of Eastern New Mexico University Portales. Thanks I really appreciate him spending a few minutes. Thank you to Damon Graham too. We got I accidentally, that kind of came last minute and then I forgot so anyway, Damon is going to join us on Monday, and he's a gentleman and a scholar. Thank you, Damon, for accommodating me on that. It is 8:41. Let's